17%. Who are they? Who the hell are the 17%? Anybody in here from the 17%? Don't raise your hand. It may be dangerous. 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17. So I think I might have been in Washington 17 times in my life. 17, 17, and 17, 17, 17, 17. 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17. I spoke to him 17 minutes ago. I hung up the phone as you're coming in. 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17. So you had 17 Republicans plus me. 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, planning it for 17 years.
Activation word, Ronald McDonald.
Put on notice, if you fuck around with us, if you do something bad to us, we are going to do
All Patriots go.
things to you that have never been done before.
Go get those lights on! The calm before the storm. Where we go one, we go all. Go! Yeah! All numbers are the same. I'm coming to kill you!
Slums of Rio, the homeless and hungry know the truth.
Donald Trump, please save me.
They have been forgotten. They have nothing.
Are you enjoying the show? Refill your popcorn. You'll love this next part.
They'll make America great again! Go!
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this.
I think it's kind of ironic when you think about the fact that Jesus never said, "Come to me, all who are crushing it and living their best life." No. He said, "Come to me, all who are weary, and I will give you rest." My God will meet you at your darkest. My God will meet you at your lowest. And He designed it that way on purpose. So that way we realize that we need to lean on Him to fight the battles we cannot. So if you're discouraged, if you're tired or weary, do not worry. That's exactly how Jesus expected you to come to Him. I tell you what, my God is undefeated at every battle He's ever fought. So I will place my trust and my faith in Him that He will see me through.
Follow the Moskwa down to Gonky Park, listening to the wind of change. An August summer night, soldiers passing by, listening to the wind of change. Closing in. Did you ever think that we could be so close, like brothers? The future's in the air, can feel it everywhere. I'm blowing with the wind of change.
up here. You get an appreciation of our world is a beautiful place, and we do need to take care of it.
Welcome to Patriot News Broadcasting, folks. I apologize for the short intro today. I'm feeling pretty under the weather today, but I wanted to go ahead and come on because there's a lot of new Wano Savan, and if I don't get to it, we're going to fall way, way behind. So let's take a look at some of these updates, and we'll go from there. Mark Zuckerberg funneled $2 billion in Facebook stock to a foundation that's bankrolling lawsuits against Trump. Silicon Valley Community Foundation has given over $4 million to protect democracy, who's taking Trump to court to stop Doge. Can't quite figure out what side Mark Zuckerberg's on there, right? Not really. The Trump administration may ban the use of food stamps for purchasing junk food, with Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins leading the effort alongside Robert F. Kennedy Jr. How do you guys feel about that? People don't like so much to be told what to buy, but then again, we could really fix the problem just by getting all the crap out of the food, and then they wouldn't have to worry so much. And then I don't know. Seems like the wrong place to start for Robert Kennedy and company. Was the Daytona 500 massive comms from Donald Trump? His granddaughter was wearing the ruby slippers on her feet with this rainbow on her shirt. And they say it is talking about what you would call San Francisco Gate, along with some in the Fed thing. We're going to talk about this. Apparently there's something going on with JP Morgan or banks moving gold from London to America. I've got the article somewhere. We will look at it. Obviously, we mentioned Doge is preparing to audit the gold reserve at Fort Knox. There's some senators talking about how they tried to get into Fort Knox, but they won't even allow Congress people in there. Isn't that a little odd, don't you think? And Elon Musk says it would be cool to do a live video walkthrough of Fort Knox. Yeah, wouldn't that be amazing? Do a live stream, you get in there, there's no gold in there, and people flip their shit. Elon Musk says there's a government database shows 5 million people over the age of 140 years old still receiving Social Security benefits. And in fact, it's older than 140 years. Apparently, we've got one person living in the United States. It's over the age of 360. And apparently, we've got over 1 million that are between the ages of 150 and 159. Did you guys know that was possible? There's 1,000 people between the age of 220 and 229. Is this goofy Social Security work, scam, launder money type thing, or do we have some really old people running around that we don't know about? I mean, those are very specific numbers. I'm afraid I don't understand. Why wouldn't you just use fake people within the normal age range of what a human can live? Why would you put people in there that age? I don't know. I don't get it. It seems like there's going to be something more to that. We'll keep our eyes peeled for that. And Doge is looking for help from you, the general public. You can DM Insight for reducing waste, fraud, and abuse, along with any helpful insights or awesome ideas to the relevant Doge affiliates found on the affiliates tab. So, yeah, if you got some ideas, personally, I think they should just start auditing Congress. Seems like a good place to start. Then if they, have some funny business going on in the background, you can start booting them and booting them and booting them, and you can skip all the other heartache, right? Not that easy? No. Okay. And U.S. Special Forces are landing in Mexico to train the Marine infantry there. Not only will we be training the soldiers in Mexico how to battle the cartels, our Special Forces have been cleared to go over there and fight themselves. The Mexican Senate officially approved the deployment of U.S. Special Forces to combat the cartels. That's about time. It's about time. Donald Trump just fired more than 200 employees from FEMA. Probably a good thing. Let me see if I can find this one about the gold. The gold. We all want the gold, right? It is weird, though. They're talking about moving gold around here. Where are you? Here we go. Why are U.S. banks flying gold from London to New York? The U.S. Treasury is trying to restock Fort Knox before their upcoming Doge audit. Could it be? Rumors are flying that Fort Knox gold reserve is empty, having been looted shortly after their last audit in 1974. So, is that what it's about? They're quickly trying to get some gold into the country. About 8,000 gold bars have been moved out of the Bank of England's vaults in recent months. How did they know within the past months that there would be an audit on Fort Knox when it was only mentioned in the past few days? I don't know. Something about those two stories, something doesn't match. I don't know what it is, but... So, did you guys see the other plane crash today?
We're in Toronto. We just landed. Our plane crashed. It's upside down. Fire department's on site. Upside down. Everybody, most people appear to be okay. We're all getting off. Some smoke going on.
It was going from Minneapolis, I think, to somewhere in Canada. It crashed in Toronto, and upon landing, flipped upside down and caught fire. As far as they've said, there's no fatalities from it, though. I've never seen a plane do something like that. How do you flip upside down upon landing? I don't understand that either. But then again, I'm not a pilot. Where do we go next? Want to see something crazy? That's no woman. That's a man. Yeah, I know they can gloss over that. Freaks me out. But that rubber suit there, ooh, pretty realistic looking. Freaky. God, that's freaky. Told you it'd freak you out. All right, let's move on with some real stuff here so we can get to our numerous WAN videos. Everything out of order today. Can I find anything? All right. I did want to show you guys this little video. It's a short video about John G. Trump, that is.
John Trump of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Dr. Trump was now retired from the company he founded, High Voltage Engineering, but he agreed to meet me at the company office the next morning.
In the spring of 1943, Dr. Carl T. Compton, who was then president of MIT, asked me to go to New York and examine the effects of Nikola Tesla. These were contained in an upper floor of a warehouse somewhere in New York City. And I spent a good deal of time examining one by one the papers, the books, and various other memorials that he had accumulated. But I was particularly looking for something which would be evidence of a secret weapon, which I was reminded by the agents, the two agents who were present during the entire time, was a matter of concern to the United States. In the course of this, I did come across a number of letters directed at the upper echelon of the British Empire, that is, I think, to the King and Queen, or perhaps just to the King of England, and also to the Tsar of Russia, explaining that he was the inventor of a secret weapon which had rather remarkable properties, and that he would be interested in entering into a negotiation which would lead to a disclosure of what they were. Of course, I spent a good deal of time looking through these papers, trying to find out what the nature of this secret weapon was. I think I had, although I don't remember it so very accurately, an idea of what its properties were. It had the capability of acting at a great distance, of being destructive to flying objects and things of that kind at a place which was remote from the source. But nowhere in his technical papers did I find anything which revealed an explanation of just how such a device could operate.
I believe that you also opened another box, supposedly a secret weapon that he left at another hotel. Can you relate that story, please?
Yes, when I had substantially concluded my study on the following day, I think that was a Saturday morning, I was reminded by one of the two agents that there was a box being held as a security for an unpaid obligation, and that this box was an item of considerable value and may indeed itself be the secret weapon, that it was armed and therefore it probably was not touched.
Were you nervous doing this?
I found it a matter of a bit of concern. However, I realized that this had to be done, and so we taxied down to this hotel. The agents identified themselves and their credentials to the assistant manager of the hotel, who led us to a room. This room was essentially empty except for a table and a steel cabinet against the wall, which was opened. I think perhaps he opened it with a key. The cabinet itself was empty, except on one of the lower shelves was a package, a box, a rectangular box of ordinary size, which was wrapped in brown wrapping paper. It turned out to be a highly polished box with brass clasps, and it looked more like an instrument case. And after waiting a while and listening a while and remembering that it had been there for quite a few years, I think it had actually been there for about 5 years as a security, I opened it. It turned out to be a Decade resistance box, manufactured by, I suspect, an American manufacturer, and something of value, but not great value, and certainly nothing ominous at all in its nature.
So after Dr. Tesla had let the world know of his secret weapon, after he had written letters to the King of England and to the Tsar of Russia, offering them this weapon at a time when both were engaged against the Germans in World War II, no evidence or papers were found which referred to any such secret weapon.
My report to Dr. Compton was that I saw no danger in releasing these papers and these relics to his heirs.
Miss Musar had arrived too late to know who had opened Dr. Tesla's safe or what had been removed. And Dr. Trump had found nothing which he considered dangerous or a secret weapon. Tesla had been a naturalized American citizen for 54 years, so why were his papers seized by agents of the custodian of alien property? I suspect that governments other than those of the United States, England, and Russia were interested in the inventions.
It almost sounds like John G. Trump was sent in there to spy on Tesla or to go over his inventions. Did they become friends during that process? I don't know. I don't know what that story is, but it is interesting. So a lot of people around the planet have diabetes. What if there was a cure?
So there are reports out of China now that scientists have found a cure for diabetes, and the American pharmaceutical industry is not happy about it. There are now examples of Chinese patients receiving this experimental stem cell therapy and after about 11 weeks no longer requiring insulin, which I imagine is something that sounds amazing to people with diabetes, no longer having to poke yourself. But it doesn't sound amazing to giant American pharmaceutical companies like Eli Lilly, who currently dominate the insulin market and use it to make billions of dollars. And this has been very controversial as they've regularly increased the price of insulin, knowing that it's a necessary commodity that people with diabetes need to survive. And this is extra disgusting because the inventor of insulin, Frederick Banting, originally sold a patent for $1, saying that insulin doesn't belong to me, it belongs to the world. And if people can be cured of diabetes so they no longer need insulin, obviously that would really cut into the demand for this product and cut into their profits. And here we see the contradictory nature of the for-profit American healthcare system. Innovation and advancements in medical technology are actually disincentivized if they have the potential to cure the patient and make it so they're no longer a repeat customer for the pharmaceutical industry. So much for capitalism promoting innovation and socialism destroying it. In reality, it's the opposite.
I think overall we just need to shut the big pharma companies down because they're always going to put profit over health. They're always going to put their money over what's best for the people. And that's quite problematic as far as being in the industry they're in. I don't know why the camera keeps fluctuating like that. Got to figure out this lighting problem. May not have a problem when I get my green screen in. Okay, let's take a look at Fort Knox, shall we? And then we'll get on to Juan.
Naturally, gold prices immediately began to soar. 9 years later, gold sold for $880 per ounce, 25 times what the gold in Fort Knox was sold for. One would think that eventually someone in the government would get wind of what was happening and blow the whistle. The largest fortune in the history of the world stolen. Shades of the old James Bond film, Goldfinger. Well, as a matter of fact, Ian Fleming, the author of the James Bond series, was head of the British counterintelligence service, MI5.
Some believe in the intelligence community that he wrote much of his fiction as a warning, as many authors of fiction do.
If the removal of all the good delivery gold from Fort Knox can be viewed as a deliberate raid on the U.S. Treasury, then such an operation might well have been years in the making, namely 40 years. Certainly enough time for Fleming to get wind of it and try to prevent it. So just how did the story of the Fort Knox gold robbery get out?
It all started with an article in a New York periodical in 1974. The article charged that the Rockefeller family was manipulating the Federal Reserve to sell off Fort Knox gold at bargain basement prices to anonymous European speculators. 3 days later, the anonymous source of the story, Louise Auchincloss Boyer, mysteriously fell to her death from the window of her 10th floor apartment in New York. How would Mrs. Boyer have known of the Rockefeller connection to the Fort Knox gold heist? She was the longtime secretary of Nelson Rockefeller.
For the next 14 years, this man, Ed Durrell, a wealthy Ohio industrialist, devoted himself to a quest for the truth concerning the Fort Knox gold. He wrote thousands of letters to over 1,000 government and banking officials, trying to find out how much gold was really left and where the rest of it had gone. Edith Roosevelt, the granddaughter of President Teddy Roosevelt, questioned the actions of the government in a March 1975 edition of the New Hampshire Sunday News.
Allegations of missing gold from our Fort Knox vaults are being widely discussed in European financial circles. But what is puzzling is that the administration is not hastening to demonstrate conclusively that there is no cause for concern over our gold treasure, if indeed it is in a position to do so.
Unfortunately, Ed Durrell never did accomplish his primary goal, a full audit of the gold reserves in Fort Knox. It's incredible that the world's greatest treasure has had little accounting or auditing. This gold belonged to the American people, not the Federal Reserve and their foreign owners. One thing is certain, the government could blow all of this speculation away in a few days with a well-publicized audit under the searing lights of media cameras. It has chosen not to do so. One must conclude that they are afraid of the truth such an audit would reveal. What is the government so afraid of? Here's the answer. When President Ronald Reagan took office in 1981, his conservative friends urged him to study the feasibility of returning to a gold standard as the only way to curb government spending. It sounded like a reasonable alternative, so President Reagan appointed a group of men called the Gold Commission to study the situation and report back to Congress. What Reagan's Gold Commission reported back to Congress in 1982 was the following shocking revelation concerning gold. The U.S. Treasury owned no gold at all. All the gold that was left in Fort Knox was now owned by the Federal Reserve, a group of private bankers, as collateral against the national debt. The truth of the matter is that never before has so much money been stolen from the hands of the general public and put into the hands of a small group of private investors, the money changers.
Yeah, so the Federal Reserve steals the gold, and then days later, Nelson Rockefeller's secretary dives out her window. Messed up, isn't it? So, where's it all now? Are they trying to bring it back? I don't know. I don't know what the story is. We're going to find out, though. That's what Elon is for. He put up a post today that cracked me up. It said, if I ever am involved in a scandal, call it Elongate. Elongate? Get it? Elongate? I thought it was funny. All right, guys. Anyway, get ready to listen in and listen up. We're going to put on Juan. I think Ricardo Bozzi's in this episode, too, so it's going to be exciting. Apologies for the short show. Again, I haven't felt great at all today, so let's go ahead and jump into it and learn something, shall we?
Watch it so they don't, and they have no clue what's going on. Police are the same. In fact, there was one gentleman whose family member happened to stumble upon what you might call a freedom fighter's YouTube channel, and he was drawn up before the commanding officer and had a few strips torn off him for what his family's doing. So they're actually kept out of the picture quite effectively.
Can I add one little thing here? Canada and Australia are unique within the Commonwealth system in that your soldiers are generally first in. And so they're the cannon fodder for conflicts before you commit forces from other locations. That's why you have, these amazing Canadian sniper teams and then tracking teams out of Australia. So that is not wearing well as this becomes more widely understood. And it is this whole war theme is part of what Trump himself is attacking. This idea of perpetual wars, gaining nothing, just killing off our best and brightest, the youth, expending huge sums of money for no actual real gain of any importance or value or righteous causes many of the times. So anyway, I hand it back to you, but I thought I'd just mention that.
No, that's useful because there's a book called The Report from Iron Mountain, which is a result of a small group of luminaries deciding what should be happening with war, for example. And they came to the conclusion that perpetual war is necessary to keep the economies running, quite apart from, as you say, any moral imperative, that the peace dividend that's supposed to come from periods of non-war isn't real, and to keep the machine grinding forward, you've got to keep doing this stuff, otherwise the economy will collapse. And this is a formal report. You can look up, the people can look up that book for themselves, Report from Iron Mountain. It's not sobering reading, it's very astute and accurate in parts, and sad at the same time, if that makes sense. The future alliance you touched upon between the Anglophone countries, particularly this group of countries, which it's almost like they were put there on purpose for the future. Canada and Greenland up north, and Australia down south. And what I like about that is, it's a very attractive option for us, looking with cold, realistic eyes into the future. You couldn't set up a better strategic alliance across the globe to keep check on everything. Australia, we're beautifully placed to cover both the Indian Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, Indo-Pacific region. That'll be ours in time with a lot of help from the US. We're looking forward to that. Its geostrategic location and its proximity to Antarctica. Again, I'm not going to go into the detail about why, but people can look that up and realize, my goodness me, there are more things at stake than the gas and oil fields in East Timor. There's a big lot of stuff going on that you haven't been told about, but hopefully you will.
And by the way, one quick thing, much of what's going on the planet is not, it's like a chess game. There's moves you make that are obvious, but sometimes the most important moves on the board are the moves you don't make by keeping certain things in reserve for later in the game. Certain areas of the board blocked off or walled off simply so that you have them available as the game progresses. And remember, this isn't game of chess in 2D or even 3D or 4D, it's in 5D. There are multiple boards in play, and pieces can pop in and out of sight that you don't see, but the players at higher levels see all of those boards. So when you talk about nations in reserve, resources held in reserves, this is, almost Luciferian levels because it's multi-generational. We're only seeing the generation within we're in and some of the past. These people are playing for the future. One of the movies that is actually very, actually tells the truth in plain sight is the movie Chinatown with Jack Nicholson. And again, at a key moment, he asks this wealthy person, "Why are you doing this? What do you have that you're gonna get from doing this that you don't already have? You can buy anything. You own everything. What is it you want?" And the man says, the future, Mr. Getz. Is it for him or for someone else, even his own family? There's a certain type of greed, even lost souls that think that they, in the Bible, it says, what gaineth a man if he gains the world and loses his soul? But some people have made that kind of a deal. It's alien to most populations, but you have to realize, no, there are people that we are fighting who literally have sold their souls, and they're thinking in terms that aren't even human. They're literally Luciferian. They're parts and pieces in a much longer term, broader objective, holding resources in reserve for 10, 20 generations for some other part of the plan. That's something beyond just the natural human spirit. So anyway, I hand it back to you, but I thought I'd just add that in there. I think it's an important way that you have to look at this. The people we're fighting aren't thinking normally the way that most people think. And even when they think intergenerational, it's not for good, it's not for health, it's not beautiful. They have some kind of a greed and a literally service to the devil himself kind of a mentality, even to wipe out whole blocks of populations just because they're not of the same bloodline. And that's the way that these people we're opposing think. So.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You've got to know your enemy, and knowing your enemy, I mean, everyone quotes it, but nobody does it. Once you know the enemy, you're good to go. And as a level below that, which the Americans have a very specific experience of, and that was the creation of the Marines as a result of the Muslim traders in the Med who kept attacking American shipping. And your famous anti-war president, Thomas Jefferson, established the Marines because the US shipping kept getting attacked. And they sent, I think it was Ben Franklin, they sent him across to negotiate, and he had being a reasonable man, he had a very diplomatic and judicious approach to the relationship, the relationship between the two groups. And everything seemed to be always going very well. They were always met with due courtesy, cups of tea, agreements, and then straight after the Islamic pirates would be attacking the shipping again. And eventually, out of frustration, I think it was Ben Franklin said, "I don't understand. Why are you doing this?" He said, "Well, because we're allowed to. You are nothing to us." And understanding the mentality of your adversary is absolutely key. That's one of the most challenging aspects, again, for Australians, maybe globally, I don't know, but for Australians, because they cannot conceive of the evil and depravity that's being visited upon them. And the statement I used to say in the early days, and I hear it a lot now, "I can't believe one human would do that to another." Yes, you're right. They wouldn't. And so you've got these different layers, these useful idiots in the Islamic world that will follow their warlord. And I know people want to be the great unifiers in history and the great bring everybody together. I've got a different remit. I've got to kick ass and take names and make sure we build a decent nation up again. And so my views are quite strong, and there's good cause for it. And I can argue the philosophical case for it if you wish, but I'll do that another time. But this future alliance is key and critical. The good thing about the Australians is, and we're very different to the US. We don't sound the same. We're just really different people. We sort of speak the same language. As Churchill said, we're two nations divided by a common language, which is very witty, but we are very different. And I have a personal loathing for Plato's noble lie, where the leadership can lie to the people because they're stupid and will do what's best for you. And I can understand the need for deception. I get it. I'm a military officer. It's part of war. I get it. But eventually it becomes de rigueur. It becomes the way you do stuff. It becomes normal. Keep lying and never tell the truth ever. In fact, never even aim for the truth at any point. Just keep lying and you'll end up like every other totalitarian ideology on the planet. And so my view has always been this: we're going to tell the truth. You know, the bitterest truth is better than the sweetest lie. Now, I understand the need for deception. Just so we're clear, we're playing big games here with big toys and big boys. This isn't stupid. But I've been very upfront with the Australian people, whether they like it or not, I don't much care, in the sense that I've painted the picture where we are incapable of governing ourselves, whether we like it or not. And we've got all the common law people shaking their fist at me. And this is the common law groups who can't agree the color of an orange. So thanks for that, fellas. You know, and you take your authority from some king 900 years ago. Well, thanks for that. I don't need some king who got his authority at the point of a sword to tell me what I can and cannot do. We have a different philosophy here. You know, by virtue of our humanity, we have the right to do what we want. And if you don't believe in that, that's fine. We can kill you too, because Mao Zedong was dead right. Political power comes out of the barrel of a gun. So you've got your rights, but you better back it up, because no piece of parchment ever stopped the musket ball. And so I've got a very practical view of it. And I explain to the Australian people, again, whether they like it or not, doesn't matter. They've got to hear the truth. And the truth is, we cannot govern ourselves. If we removed every Mason in this country, locked them up, hung them, whatever had to be done to them, we would be bereft of the skill to do it. You physically need people with skills. And so we need to be under the suzerainty, and I'm really clear about this, whether they like it or not. We have to be under the suzerainty of the US for some time before we as a nation, because individually we've got some very talented people, but as a nation, we will then be capable of actually governing ourselves. And the model is, let's get counties in first and see if they can run a county without destroying the place. So it doesn't look like a frat house party after a good Saturday night. So once they maybe learn how to run a county, we can start getting people elected to run states. And maybe after they learn to run a state, they can run the country as a whole. And it is the single most difficult thing to run a modern Western constitutional republic. It is hard work. Just the knowledge in civics and philosophy to understand what you're doing and why, what works and doesn't, is extraordinary. We're talking about a multi-year process, and we've got a plan for that. We're rolling that out. This is not difficult in the sense of what do we do. We know what we've got to do. It's just going to be very time-consuming. And so that alliance.
Well, let me dive in for 1 second. Here, from a scriptural side, when the people left Egypt, they had been slaves in Egypt. People were running every part of their lives. They were ordered about. They had everything about their life directed by someone else. When they got to the desert, it was only a 40-day walk, even for the oldest and youngest of the people, to get to the area where Jericho is, the promised land, if you will. But along the way, they had all of these terrors, and they left weapons of war, not just gold and like that, and the precious stuff. They left with weapons, but they didn't know how to use them. And in fact, they all died in the desert, all of the adults, because they wouldn't go in and take the land. They sent spies in the land, found out there was giants, and they got scared. And so they wandered in the desert for 40 years. No, over the age of 20, when they left Egypt, other than Joshua and Caleb, the two spies that came back with a good report, everyone else died out in the desert. And the reason is because you could take the people out of Egypt. You couldn't take the Egypt out of the people. It took a generation dying out. And those that had grown up not in Egypt, but in the desert, came of age. They went in and took the land. And then it took time for them to find some kind of an order and be able to govern themselves. It wasn't instant, and they grew into the land. It's not the fault of the Australian people precisely. They've been conditioned, and the people doing this have, millennia, really, not just centuries of training to know how to subjugate people, how to force them into a condition where they accept their servitude. And it will take some time to grow up a generation that has the skill set, most of all, not to steal from the treasury, not to use their power to steal from past and future generations. The greatest restraint you have to have is from deciding that you're going to steal from the future for the present, just for yourself, as opposed to plant and build for the future. That is something that you have to really think about and work out. And that's why Trump is coming in and going after all of the falsehoods and the spending and authorities like that. He has to cut the bleeding, put tourniquets on these places, because America was about to bleed out from all the spending and falsehoods and like that. So that'll be a challenge for Australia. But like I said, we're going to get America under control from the inside out. And then we're going to be there not as our brother's keeper, but our brother's brother. We need a strong Australia. We need to be able to work together and for both of our peoples. And that's exactly what America is going to do.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've lived and worked with any number of militaries overseas. And one of the greatest privileges has been working with the US with the special forces, and even just visiting warships and bases. It's an extraordinary insight into the US military. And it used to frustrate me quite a bit when people who had no experience with the US military would gob off at dinner table conversations. And I remember I was at a dinner party, a reasonably well-known family, and I think they probably got their impression of the US military from watching Oliver Stone's Platoon, and they extrapolate that across the entire US armed forces. And the host was waxing lyrical and making snide comments about the US military. And as a guest, you bite your tongue. It's not my place to shut down the host of a dinner party. But eventually we got too much, and I just said, "Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, who here's been on ops with the American military in recent times?" "Just me?" "Oh, okay, thanks." And I put my hand down, because we have a grossly arrogant and massively uninformed leadership in this country. They need to be slapped down a peg or two. And so I'm looking forward to working with my friends in the US military. It's a privilege and a pleasure to do so. And I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I see nothing but good times ahead. There's pain to come. I get that. Absolutely understand there's pain to come. But no, we're going to be in great shape. And your point about the Hebrews leaving Egypt, that's exactly right. They had to let them die off. They didn't want to bring the slavery mindset into their new nation. Australia must do the same, but in the sense that we've got to learn ourselves, and we have to create a generation that doesn't know slavery, that doesn't know servitude, that doesn't know demoralization, that doesn't know poisoning, that doesn't know murder at the behest of their elected representatives. And so we've got a big job ahead of us, but we're ready for it. These are the great labors of peace. Again, I've been warning the Australian people about for some time. It's not as exciting as the tribulations of war, but it's that digging the deep foundation for the building, so we know that we're going to be making it well into the future for our children and grandchildren.
Yes, it's hard work because you're starting from scratch, and you don't have people that have a long history understanding what's going on here. So you have to, they have it in writings, but even if you go back a couple of generations in Australia, it's not necessarily there in the history. And so you've got to kind of start from scratch to build out that understanding. It's in the spirit of the people, it's in their heart, but experientially, they need some training to get to the right place there.
Yeah, absolutely, they do, and we've got plans for that as well. We are averse in Australia to conscription. They tried that under Prime Minister Billy Hughes for World War I. Massive resistance to do it. Now, I think that's a legacy of our convict roots. But still, it's just not popular here. But on the other hand, what we're going to do is we're going to make service in the armed forces so attractive that mum and dad are going to get their boys and girls and say, get in there, do your 7 years, get a trade, get some education, pick up your acre of land and start setting up your family, because that's the way we're going to do it. We're going to repopulate the rural areas, which have been progressively stripped of their people, much like everywhere else in the planet, rather, because they want these 15-minute cities. Well, we're doing the absolute reverse. We're going to make sure there's employment, infrastructure, whatever you need, and start repopulating the countryside, so it is more difficult on a practical level to coerce the entire Australian population. If you look at I think it's nearly 27 million people on the land mass, almost the same size as continental US, and that 27 million is concentrated into 4 or 5 major tiny pockets. And so we've got this massive land that we need to repopulate, and we're going to do it. And we're going to irrigate it. We're going to turn it into the breadbasket of the world. See, we're lucky. We're like the US. We need nothing and nobody in a sense of resources. We've got everything we need. We could throw a wall up around the country and we'd be fine. Now, we're not going to do that because that doesn't help anybody. But we've got everything we need here. And so we're going to build, and we're going to build, and we're going to build. And this country is going to be, I can confidently say, we're going to be the US's best and strongest ally. We want to it's always a bit frustrating when we work overseas with the US, because Australia's contribution in a political sense is always important. The flag is in the sand. Yep, got it, no problem. But when you look at the numbers.
The one thing I was going to say is, you say an acre of land. Actually, it should be by certain regions. There's some regions where if they want to live in certain population areas, because families there, history's there, great. But in other areas, as you move out, maybe it's 2.5 acres. In some areas, it's 5 or 20 acres. And in some areas, it's 160 or 1,600 acres, because Australia, you have about 8% of the population of the U.S., as you said, in about the same land area. In fact, I mentioned on one of the other shows that I told Jennifer, my wife, that I want to come back down to Australia. It's one of my favorite places in the world. I love, I'm a car guy, and you have these vast stretches for just amazing drives and some of the neat interior stuff, the opal mines and people living underground in those areas. It's just, and the coastline. I mean, some areas you can swim, some areas don't get out of the pool. You're somebody else's dinner. But it's just this amazing place that you want to encourage the population to spread out, make room for each other, and grow these things and hit those resources. The other day you had a discovery of the largest iron ore mine in the world in an area that already has quite a bit of iron. But I think that moves Australia into first place in the world, for steel production, the ore for steel production, the building blocks of civilization, modern civilization. And there's people who want to depopulate the earth, and that's actually asinine and silly. They just want to wipe out in a genocide type fashion anybody that's not them. The reality is we have lots of room on the planet to spread out, some areas more than others. It doesn't actually favor people to concentrate themselves, and it's actually harder on the planet. It's Cain was the builder of cities, and that was for control, stack them and pack them. The reality is as we spread out, there's plenty of room, and to do it in a way that is very wholesome for the earth. Adam his job was to tend the garden. He was the groomsman for the garden. We have this beautiful garden planet that, for example, where I am right now, this was just a volcanic region. And people came in and artificially built a paradise here and, put in the gardens and the palm trees and all the plants and everything, the infrastructure to enjoy this. You have plenty of room in Australia to build many, many, many more pockets of, industrialization, of technology, farming, and other things. And by the way, even though most of the launches are done in the northern hemisphere, Australia, especially with new technology that's really here now but not widely used, if you're not looking at a militarized version of space access, Australia is an amazing place for the build out that's going to come into extending the population out over the earth, not just on the earth. And you can do it with chemical rockets and from a militarized standpoint, you can do it from Australia very well. But the reality is that from a resources standpoint, the use of some of these mining resources, etc., for the build out on the space side makes as much or more sense from Australia than almost any other region of the world. And so, you haven't even begun to tap that particular resource. And, it's exactly where the next generation should go. Don't fight the last war, fight the next war. And it's not going to be war people versus people, but us to take command and control of the resources that we have in a very judicious way, and then go further. The biblical promise was that Abraham would have a offspring, a heritage, a blessing of children that would be as the sands of the seashore for number, and as the stars in the heaven for number, an earthly and a spiritual seed, but also a physical seed going out and populating the region around the earth and this whole solar system and beyond. We have a future that's different than most of these people are thinking. They're trying to own and control little plots of land and to hold us in a little place in their 15-minute cities and their 200 square foot apartments. Bullshit. We got plenty of room. We don't want to listen to those that want us in that mode. These are the Neros who just want to enslave us. Let's go enjoy the future. And we're going to do that with Australia. We're going to share information, resources, ideas, and build a beautiful future, not just for ourselves, but for our children's children's children as an inheritance, something that we will take great satisfaction in knowing that we have left the place better than we found it, and set a solid example for those that follow us. Here's how you do it, and do it right.
And it's our Christian foundations which form the core of our culture, because as you know, culture comprises many parts, the material and non-material elements of a culture. But at its very core, at its very center, are the spiritual beliefs. And you could give, and they've tried it, all the advantages that, say, the US has, and put it over a culture with a different spiritual center, and it'll collapse in on itself within 2 or 3 generations.
That's right.
It's only that Christian foundation that drives that we know we are building on rock. We're not building on sand. We will build alongside the US and Canada and New Zealand. We will build this extraordinary civilization, this transnational civilization, not a globalist thing. So everybody else just take a chill pill, relax. But it's going to be an extraordinary place simply because the Christian foundations upon we would build this. It's going to be extraordinary. We are going to be attracting people from around the world to come here, and that's great. We're more than happy with that. Just a warning. If you ask, are any sharks in the water, and somebody says no, the reason for that is the crocodiles got them all. So just be very, very careful when you go swimming in Oz. Everything here wants to kill you, including the women. So gentlemen, be careful. But you're welcome. Just be careful.
Yeah. Fortunately, I'll bring my own wife with me, so I'm covered in that. And then the only other thing Australia has that I really want to bring home is you have some really great hot rods down there, and they're so unique because you have these long stretches that you have to drive. The engines that you use, the raw materials, are actually very robust, and we have much comparatively more dainty cars in many places because they're driving on very refined roads and modest weather conditions, etc. But down there, you got long stretches that you have to drive a little bit higher speed, and then you got to maintain. Things can't warp and twist just because they're getting hard duty. So it's you got a few cars down there actually. I like some of the wagons you guys and the trucks and like that. They have a fun, unique look to them. So I've got cars from all over the world, but I might come down and find one and drag it home just for fun. And I just it's one of the fun things that I enjoy. And Australian mechanics, they're just it's a different mentality than some of the stuff we have here in the States. And so we got to really raise our game here from the American side if we have to compete with you Aussies, because you think different.
Yeah. Well, there's in the Northern Territory, which is, if you imagine Australia, it's the top of Oz. It's called the Northern Territory. And they have long, dead straight stretches of road, north to south, no speed limit. So you'll have to put some time aside to do a run in the NT. Just be careful for the road trains. which you've got double bogies, or we've got quadruple and quintuple bogies behind our prime movers, and they travel at the same speed. So, as I said, everything he wants to kill you, but put some time aside for a run down the main drags in Northern Territory.
Well, and by the way, I was dealing with some folks over in Africa on something several years ago, and there was Europeans in there and banking people that wanted to put in railways in these areas, and I said, "You guys are crazy. That is so foolish." I said, "What you need to do is go down and see how the Aussies do it with their land trains. Very efficient. No need for all of this rails like that. And if you got problems with certain people in certain regions that want to attack and do stuff, you just change your route. Fairly efficient, and it's a much more appropriate way to attack that problem." We actually went through some of the engineering stuff and did some studies, and it was proven outright. These European folks, though, didn't like it because it actually worked. It was never about putting something together that worked. It was about a way to force these people to accept a deal that was very foolish economically, and then obligate them to paying for that, as opposed to actually solving certain needs. And when we did our study and looked at it, the value was like 30 to 1.
Wow.
So when you look at what you're doing, again, that comes back to the independent mind of many of the people. They're not, if you'd had a bunch of Europeans figuring this out, they might have just come up with a way to obligate you to more expense or something that wouldn't really work, wouldn't fit the people and the location. And my experience there in Australia is that actually the government's not in step with the people, and it's because they're listening to other siren songs from other places in the world. You guys really should be far, far wealthier and with far, far, far less or next to zero taxes. And it's the exact opposite, just like what's happening here in America. And that's why what President Trump and the people around him are doing right now is just so stunning. They're going in at the wastage that's occurring right there in plain sight and attacking it head on.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. The tax plan we have, in fact, is we get rid of every tax. There's no tax, nothing, no tax, no income, no stamp duty, no land tax, no payroll tax, all gone, all replaced by a 2% expenditure tax. And that's just very simple, because what it does is it puts the burden on the corporations. And we did the calculations, and it's something like $220 billion a day gets transferred at that level. And they don't pay tax because they're very clever. But that's going to change. Instead of the tax burden landing on the shoulders of the wage slaves, which is exactly what's been happening. Now, they make 1,000, they keep 1,000. They sell a house for $1 million, they keep their $1 million. Good luck to them. And that 2% expenditure tax takes us out of the red and into the black.
You're incentivizing people that they get to keep that which they've worked for and earned. Their own life energy is for their benefit. The way the system's been working is that your life energy is being sucked out of you. These people are like parasites. And so you exist for their purposes. And the body politic in many nations is infested with these parasitic entities, these people. And you can have parasites. Everybody has parasites up to a certain level. They're just part of the nature of the planet, life in this world. But you have to keep them under control. And so by your diet, certain things you take, if you're eating raw fish and sushi and like that, you must have the wasabi. You must have the ferments that kill parasites and keep them in check, and it doesn't favor them, getting a foothold in your physical body readily. That's why you have kimchi in Korea. That's why you have sauerkraut in Germany. You have these ferments, kefir. Kefir, whole wars were fought over the technology of kefir ferments in milk because it stopped certain types of plagues. And so understanding that now you go to the body politic within the nation state, there must continuously be an environment, a bio zone within your body that doesn't favor these parasites coming into control or load. And so when the load on the body becomes too great, the parasitic load, your immune system starts shutting down. And on the body of the parasites, they actually feed bacterial blooms. So you imagine, say, in the stomach lining, there might be so many square inches of stomach lining. But when you add parasites, their mouths on there, and then their elongated bodies, these worms, you might increase the surface area through the gut by 100 times just with the surface area on the parasites. And they have bacteria that reside on that membrane, their skin. As parasites feed and take the nutrients and the proteins out of your body, they excrete as waste the sugars, and the bacteria live on these sugars. And so oftentimes these sugars will get the bacteria having huge blooms. And what the bacteria excrete is histamine. And histamine is very inflammatory. And so if you have parasites in the lungs, which is very common, most often from birds or like household pets, cats, dogs, things like that, you'll get parasites in the lungs, and they'll have bacteria on them. So one of the young men that I was helping decades and decades ago, he's in his 40s now, when he was still in grade school, early in grade school, he had to use the respirator, and had since he was very, very little, because he would get attacks just from walking or climbing stairs. I felt it had been misdiagnosed. They told him for the rest of his life he's just going to have to be on an inhaler. And I had other doctors look at him and check for parasites. And sure enough, he had huge parasitic population in his lungs. He was treated for that. And within a month, weeks, he didn't need inhalers anymore. Within a month or two, he was back to normal and went on to compete in bicycle races and all sorts of things as a young man, and had an entirely different life because the parasites had been cleared out of his lungs. Because what do you take when you take an inhaler? It's an antihistamine. It wasn't the parasites directly that was the problem, it was the bacteria on the parasites excreting histamine whenever he was exerting. So if his blood pressure's up, if his heart rate's up, the parasites are feeding more heavily in the lungs, and they're excreting within just a couple of minutes histamines that would inflame his lungs and his esophagus and his airways, and he couldn't breathe.
Well, that had a quick ending. It's all right. We'll bring up the next show. The stuff he was talking about tonight and yesterday about the parasites is pretty interesting. I've been learning a lot about that. As far as the other stuff goes, there's so much to learn. I feel like people just want to jump right into this happened, that happened, facts, and they don't want to learn anything. I mean, that's the big part of the Great Awakening. It's expanding your mind. All right. Let's move on to the next one. Or actually, there might be a part 2.
Who I can tell you is sincere, genuine. I've had time that I've got to spend with him for days on end. Had a personal meeting with him on Truth Tour. You would all remember that. He sent the F-16s over or helped coordinate.
It looks like we might have watched part 2 first. So now we're watching part 1.
That when we were in Cheyenne, Wyoming at the Kiwanis Community Center, and then C-130 Hercs, and then 5 hours of Black Hawk helicopters hanging out as we did that on September 27, 2022, which happened to also coincide with Michael Jaco's birthday when he was in Florida at the time. I'm once again joined by the amazing, whom I have always recognized as the de facto commander-in-chief of Australia, national leader, Australia One Party now, but former retired Lieutenant Colonel, Australia SAS, 24 years Spec Ops, Ricardo Bosi, an absolute legend in the truth community. And Rick and I have conducted a number of shows together. He's an absolute force of nature. If you haven't had an opportunity to meet him, I think this is going to be completely dynamic. And we're going to cover a number of topics here relevant to Americans, Australians, Canadians, and all of you patriots that are focusing on peace, love, harmony, and justice across the planet right now. As Major General Valley and I were chatting just before I came on here, this again is the man who co-drafted America First papers, and he has stated all Canadians are Americans for good reason. He's literally calling we're watching Operation Steamroll. And he said, I'm just making it up. And I mean, he co-drafted America First. He helped arrange a meeting for President Putin and President Trump to meet each other and do the famous handover of the soccer ball. But this is a man who said it's really time to enjoy what's happening right now, but we still have to stand up. And these two men, whom you see on the screen, Juan and Rick, continue to do that. And folks, if you don't know what you have any reasons to celebrate beyond it being February 14th or 15th, wherever you're seeing this, well, RFK Jr. has just been confirmed Secretary of Health and Human Services with the mandate to make America healthy again. And when you make America great again, you make the world, you make Earth great again. Tulsi, who is also a friend of Major General Valley's, is now the DNI, the highest intelligence coordinator and leader in the land under the American presidency. And President Donald John Trump just announced great deals with Japan, a major deal with India yesterday with the Prime Minister at the White House of India. He even referenced Australia as part of securing the promise of prosperity in the Indo-Pacific theater region. We are just moments away, it could be days or weeks, from the release of the JFK, RFK, and MLK Jr. assassination files, possibly part of that, the 9/11 and Gulf of Tonkin incidents, and possibly the assassination, which I believe was ordered on JFK Jr. by the Clintons, the deep state. So, well, Juan called me on December 26th. I want to thank Tracy Joe for the connection on this, who had said to me, Brad, we're going to take New Zealand, take Australia, welcome Canada back into America, and we're going to buy Greenland. This will be a large premise of our conversation here, dear souls, the 51st state. Now, remember, when Juan and I were together on the Truth Tour, now remember, he was attending the Truth Tour, right, as the special guest speaker, the draw. I was just a little Canadian Brad. But he told and declared to all of us that he has most access to Trump aside from Scavino. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, I witnessed for days this man, with his zeal, absolutely with sincerity, give bear hugs or wonderful handshakes with a glint in his eye to every single individual who attended Truth Tour. And he went nonstop. And today he joins us in Hawaii with 2 feet that he's never put into the Hawaiian sand. He's been there for 2 weeks working hard. And maybe Australia is going to be a temporary territory. Putin says that Europe's now going to bow to DJT. You know, Ukrainians and Switzerland are spending American taxpayer money, according to Tuck Carlson. We've got dues and chemtrails still happening. Nuremberg justice might be happening very soon in Gitmo. And there's a POW flag flown at the White House lawn right now that Scavino just posted right before we came over here. So, gentlemen, what I would like to do is, Juan, it's your first time on the show. Before we go to you two giving proper introductions of yourselves, Juan, would you mind leading us off in a prayer? That's typically how we do this on the show. When Rick is on, there are a few times I've actually forgotten to ask, but for this one, most definitely, sir, and your patriotism and your service, would you mind leading all of us in our audiences off with prayer?
Sure, and I wouldn't put myself in the same category as Scavino. I think he's, probably, he's probably sharing suits with Trump because they travel so much together and like that. So he's in a whole nother zip code. But
I was just re-quoting you. I was re-quoting you. Have the most access to Trump behind Scavino. That was your
well,
quote.
I don't know if I said that. It might be
okay.
That might have been that week or something. I don't know. Certainly, I think
for the week. Right on. Right on.
Yeah.
All right.
But let me say a prayer with everyone. And
Thank you.
By the way, before I say that, there are so many different experiences, people crying out to our Father in heaven, and we all have so much. You're a product of all of your environment, your parents, the neighborhood, but when God is speaking to each of us, there's a voice that we recognize that is not, even in the midst of all the calamity, chaos, even within the churches or the religious organizations, there's so much of the flesh in there, if you will, people, with their own agendas and things like that. But if you're asking God to speak to you, to help you, to work with you, to teach you, and you're praying sincerely to your Father in heaven and asking for guidance and contact, our Father's a good Father, and he'll find you, and whatever is of him, he'll pull it out. And things that even from people around us who might be sincere or be sincerely wrong, however, if we're asking God with a pure heart, please God, find me, he's as serious as you are. And so we're not looking just with the inputs from the people around us, men and women like that. I just encourage everyone, we all need, God is a personal God, and there's things that happen in your heart, mind, soul, life that no man can engineer, and no man can come between us when we're asking for God to touch us, interact with us, help us. And so with that in mind, Father God, we all come to you. There's so many cares of this world. There's so much that the tumult, personal things, whether it's the ability to put food on the table or pay the bills or take care of your children or parents, health issues. There's so many cares in this world, and we need help with all of those. But most of all, this place is a conditioning training zone. We're in the school of the Holy Spirit. Father God, we pray for each one of us that you would deal with the issues today that are important to you in our lives, and that you would bring us closer to you, and that you would give us your provision, that which we need today in every category of our lives: health, clarity of mind, understanding of the purpose why you brought us here. And then beyond that, we pray for strength, not just for ourselves, but to be about that which you would have us do, your work, your way. to shore up our relationships with others around us, to help them. We pray for strength and provision, but again, not just for ourselves, but so that we may be about helping others around us, our own family, people we know, people we might not know, but you bring across our paths. We seek to be doers of righteousness and good, and to see a healthy planet, healthy people able to worship you in spirit and in truth. And we're pilgrims in this life, this path that you put us on. We ask you to find us, help us, let us see you clearly, and then for your protection. We thank you for the ability to come to you, that you've put on flesh like we put on a coat, come and taken the penalty of sin upon yourself so that we may be able to come to you directly without anything between us. Help us, bless us, let us be about your work, your way. We pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, sir. And for those in Australia and some in the Sovereign Soul Show, Juan, just go ahead and please introduce yourself, and we'll turn it over to Rick for his introduction.
Well, I mean, I probably a lot of the people have heard some of my conversations like that. The short version is that I did do some unusual work several decades ago, helped to take down the Soviet Union on the ruble and other things, worked in the drug wars in South America. So I've got a bit of a history. I don't get into it too much, but now at this point in time, looking at what's going on in the world, so much of it is, if you're looking only at the surface, you're missing the vast majority of what's happening. There's things happening behind the scenes to try and control us, manipulate us out across the planet, because you have certain groups, certain bloodlines who literally want to take over the earth. It goes back to the garden with the devil himself, if you want to get right down to good versus evil. And so we can't be naive about what's going on. In fact, I was mentioning a few minutes ago, on March 1st, we're inviting hosts all over the world to live stream with us and some of the experts to join us concerning from Maui here, the Lahaina fire, which clearly involved the use of military weapons. These weren't from some university or private corporation or something like that. These are military weapons that were used to destroy Lahaina for some other purpose. And there was planning beforehand, getting ready to build Lahaina in some different way that suited some globalist agenda, proof of concept. But it's not unique to Maui. We've seen fires like this in the Paradise fires and the Palisades fires in California, where somebody wanted to put in a high-speed railway, it looks like, and to reinvent that whole region, some of the most valuable land in the world. We've seen similar activities where some of these lithium mines were applying for permits, and suddenly there's huge fires following the outline of the permitted area in various parts of the world, Canada, Brazil, portions of Africa and the rest of South America, and then also into Australia. So who's behind this? You can't go to a governor or to, here in the United States, the FBI or some group like that. They don't have the tools to investigate these types of crimes. These are acts of war. These are military weapons being used against civilian populations and killing thousands and thousands and stealing and destroying their property. And so in order to attack this, we're going to have literally military tools applied to the investigations. And because it's a nation state level type of attack, weapons of war are being engaged. I believe that the only way we're going to get to the right end on this is just like President Trump releasing the JFK files. And he also promised before he took office the first term that before he was done, we would know exactly who brought down the Twin Towers and other similar things. We have a problem with a particular group here in the United States called Senior Executive Service. They're the shadow government. We have other branches of that with Serco out of Great Britain, and other agencies that are related, including all of these intelligence agencies who's are using dark money in some type of a collusion to take over nation states. And in fact, one of the things that is happening right now, we have the engineers who stole the 2020 election here in America. In interviewing them, they have said that they put people into positions of power in 72 countries, not just the United States, over the last couple of decades, so that we have multiple nations around the world with senior leadership or presidents that, plus the down ballot people, who are not the will of the people of those nations. They were imposed on them through vote fraud, counterfeits. These are people that in some prior time may have counterfeited, paper money, fiat money, but now they counterfeit ballots because they're worth more than the paper money to have control in reshaping the world. And in their own realm, these people are possessed by the same spirit that possessed Nero. Nero, who burned down Rome so that he could reinvent it and reshape it with his image, and to wipe out the memory of all the prior Caesars so that the only person that would remain would be Nero. And then the spirits, the high priests, the advisors in Nero's ear, just like the devil himself in Cain's ear there in the garden. If you murder, if you destroy, if you take out all these things, then you can own the future. You can own the world. And that's what we're fighting here. So I want to include the attacks that have occurred in Australia and in Canada when we talk about what happened here in Maui on March 1st in about 2 weeks. And I hope you'll all join us on that. And I'd love to have you guys live stream that broader broadcast here and have you join us to give your perspectives from Canada, Australia. And by the way, in the future, the way that this is rolling out, as I've said numerous times to numerous audiences for several decades, the alignment of the United States with Canada and with Australia and New Zealand and now Greenland is so important because we have very co-joined interests. In fact, even Russia is a natural ally of all of these countries, including the U.S. It is this globalista crowd, these bloodline families and aligned corporations and people who want us divided because they have an attitude that to divide allows them to conquer. And so they want divided people. They want us in civil wars. They want us fighting each other. And then it makes us easy prey for them. We're going the other direction. And as we make America great again, it's not to the exclusivity and benefit only of America. In fact, as we regain our strength and our health, as Robert Kennedy was just voted in to be our new Health and Human Services Director, we'll get America healthy again. We're going to stand up. We're going to rise up, but not to reign over others around us, not to be our brother's keeper, but to be our brother's brother, to help the other nations, just like our election was a false election in 2020, as the truths of that are borne out in courtroom settings and proven out with the witnesses and even some of the hardware involved. Then we will turn around and we will help all those other nations that were similarly attacked those 72 nations that are under some kind of iron fist of falsehood being run by people who are not the will of the nation. And one of the most egregious of them all being what's going on right now in South Korea, where the president tried to expose election fraud from April of 2024 election. And the only way legally that he could get access to that area with the computers was to have a brief martial law. Unfortunately, they didn't find exactly what they were looking for because they were looking in the wrong area, not that it didn't exist. And so as we unveil what we have with these people that stole the 2020 election in America, we will also show it in other places, including what occurred in South Korea. And we pray, in fact, let me say this brief prayer. Father God, protect the president and those who were in his camp to assist him, who are in prison now in South Korea. We pray for divine protection, your own hand protecting them. Give us strength and favor so that we may go take out those purporting to have won and their falsehoods and bring the president back intact to his rightful position of authority and power there in South Korea. Thank you, Father. The issue in South Korea is so serious, so severe, that since Trump has come into office, he has been steadily moving American troops to South Korea to shore up that position because it is such a fragile spot. And Japan is very concerned about this, trying to help, but can only go so far in pushing that. It's out of place a little bit. America needs to step in there. And so there's a lot at stake. The same people that steal elections are the ones who want to steal all the land. And in fact, I believe the exact same crowd in an extended way that are doing these attacks on places like Maui, California, Australia, and Canada, and many other places around the world to steal the wealth to themselves. So with that said, I hope that's a fair enough introduction for you guys.
It certainly is one. And as you've spotlighted it, and we roll over to Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bosi, retired Australia SAS folks. And this, again, I'm so honored to have both of you on the show. You spotlighted the directed energy weapons, which also work in partnership with the chemtrails and the weather engineering and modification, which we've seen. So for especially the people in Australia, if you haven't seen this before and you haven't heard me just talk about that, I've had an unfortunate but also a very unique experience in my life where I was living at West 57th and Broadway, working for Research in Motion BlackBerry, if you remember back in the day. And we have it on BlackBerry, the RIM servers, where we had the 3 World Trade Centers dropped. Remember the third one, World Trade Center 7, that tower dropped 5 hours later. And I actually had clients in all those towers, and I was down there in the World Trade Center for meetings that day. Interesting story, but we won't go into it now as to how that didn't happen, fortunately for me. But after eventually being at ground zero while rescue efforts went on, because BlackBerry was the only thing on the Mobitex network working that day, bring that up for people to research later if they want to do deep dives like Engine On has done. Then I was at the Pentagon because we also had it as I was working, co-locating with the DoD team for RIM at the Pentagon with EDS, Booz Allen Hamilton, Accenture, Deloitte Consulting, running those relationships as well for them, for our company at the time. They fired a missile in the Pentagon. Juan has spoken about that before. That was fired from a submarine in the Potomac into it. So colleagues, you see a colleague beside me at the lectern in the bottom right-hand corner of this photo, where we're holding a BlackBerries ourselves. This photo, these were taken 12 minutes after one of Rumsfeld's press conferences that we attended, and he lost a number of his own colleagues at Booz Allen Hamilton, along with the other service members at the Pentagon that were taken out by that explosive warhead. Short time after that, I was 18 stories then below the Pentagon. And in 2002, the following year, my sister awoke me to the fact of HAARP, the High Altitude Atmospheric Research Program in Alaska, which at that point in time you could find online through Google Web Crawler, and 2002. And then she ended up then obviously going to work and teach at the Pentagon, NSA in Fort Meade, DIA, before CSIS picked her up, and she spent 8 years there until she got a little too frustrated with the way that things were going. So two Woznies have been at the Pentagon, I guess, along with Val Thor. Maybe there's a little bit of a fun note in there, making light of a serious situation. Thank you for that.
Well, and let me just add one little quick thing.
Yeah.
Remember that the day before the 9/11 attack, Rumsfeld was talking about the fact they were missing, I think, $1.6 trillion out of the Pentagon budgets that they were trying to figure out where it went. And then where did the missile hit? The exact area of the Pentagon where all the records had been brought to. And supposedly those records were destroyed there. Therefore, we were never able to get to the truth of where the money had been going. And it wasn't just a billion here, a billion there. It was 1.6 trillion, as I recall. Then the other thing is, just for a little bit further, I worked on the Whitewater stuff down in Arkansas, involved with money being money laundered back up into the U.S. through ad fund, a bunch of other stuff. The investigative agencies that were involved, which were about a half a dozen, things like IRS, DEA, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, FBI, state police, and local police involved in all this stuff related to vast amounts of money being money laundered back into Arkansas and other states from the drug running in South America like that, involving large corporations. All those records were gathered together. And the Senate Finance, the Oversight Committee, was going to look at that. And so they ordered all of the original records and files of every investigator from all the various agencies brought to Washington, D.C. Well, if you lose your original evidence, you lose chain of custody. You can't testify in court on that. So many were fussing, complaining, this is crazy. This is crazy. Why not just send copies? But no, they wanted every original record. And so they were ordered to assemble them from all those agencies, and they were put in trucks. And the last that anybody knew, they were headed to Washington, D.C. About a week before Oklahoma City bombings, we found out that the records had all been sent to the McMurrah building there in Oklahoma City. And at the Murrah building, when the truck arrived and blew it up, that supposedly all those records were destroyed. When the building wasn't completely demolished, they had to push it in on itself and pave it over because they didn't want anybody going in and finding and being able to look at those records. They said it was a hazard. In other words, the explosion was a cover-up to wipe out all the records that we had of the people and the money trails involved in the money laundering coming into a dozen states, including Arkansas, in black budgets, primarily for three-letter agencies. And so we know that other things like the flooding on Water Street in New York after 9/11 and the buildings themselves at 9/11, there have been several operations, including what happened at the Pentagon, to eliminate the records that would show not just America, but the world, where this money has been coming from for these deep state operations, not just against the American people, but against people all over the world, nations all over the world. And so as we move forward, even the fires in these disparate parts of the world using military grade weapons is a concern. Certainly 9/11, weapons of an unusual nature, certainly not the two planes, were engaged. Military assets have been being used repeatedly. Oklahoma City is not what it was purported to be. And we know some of the people who were asked to do that job and declined to blow that building up. So, we have a lot of work ahead of us, but Trump is on the way, starting with the assassination attempts is only a portion of it. He also wants all the stuff, or the assassinations. He also wants all the information on assassination attempts, which doesn't just include him. What about the attempt on Reagan, and what is the truth versus the purported truth of that incident and many others around the world. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. Sorry, I just wanted to get that in there since you mentioned the Pentagon stuff.
I think Rick's people, not his actual people, but the people of Australia, like others in Canada right now, unfortunately, booing the American anthem at NBA and NHL games. This serves as great veracity to things Rick has been bringing forward, other people have been bringing forward, and to hear it directly from you, a man who's had that experience and worked behind the scenes, Juan, I truly appreciate it. And, for anybody who doesn't know, the chief of the Hawaiian Kingdom has been saying on multiple Zooms I've been on with him over the last 2 years, he's saying the Lahaina fires have to be reclassified and marketed out there as the directed energy terrorist attacks. That's the chief of the Hawaiian Kingdom. Moana's beside right now. Directed energy terrorist attacks. That's the chief of the Hawaiian Kingdom saying that this is what has happened here. So, it's the sci-fi, unfortunately, is mainstream, but it's up to us to keep it mainstream as well now, because this is truth in plain sight of this complete eradication and extinction level events still continue to go on against mankind. Anyway,
it's very, very, very clear in all of these fires to anybody who has a few grains of honesty in them that they're not natural or normal. We have numerous experts that handle these types of things for a living, and they've all said no, this is not a normal fire. These are military grade weapons.
Yeah.
But to get to the bottom line will require that we get some type of executive assistance. The only person that can actually authorize the types of investigations that are required here and to deploy investigators with the proper information and tools and access is going to be in a military environment. You can certainly have policing agencies involved, but the actual authorities to go and look in the right places is going to have to also include military. And so that's the commander-in-chief, which Trump can do. And again, just like with the assassination files, no judge could order the files released. They were secured under executive authorities. So the only person actually in a position, because of national security, to order the investigations and then the release of those files is in fact the president or commander-in-chief. And so I put what happened at Maui and in California and in these other locations, Australia, Canada, and other nations around the world, actually several hundred of these directed energy attacks now. The only person that can authorize that, and by the way, our satellite systems see these with perfect clarity. There's nothing hidden here. We have unbelievable capability to track and monitor not just that these attacks are happening, but the origins of the platforms from which these are being conducted. So with that in mind, we have to look at these attacks on the rest of our citizenry between these different countries as acts of war and in the same classification as trying to decapitate the leadership of a country with these assassination attempts. These are assassinations of American citizens, Australian citizens, Canadian citizens who happen to be in the way of these people possessed by a Nero spirit. These operations that are the, Nero type operations seeking to destroy these main hubs and reinvent them for their demonstrator projects for their new world order type of a direction that they want to go.
All right, so those were out of order. We watched part 2 first, then part 1. Before I put on the next episode, though, I just want to say a couple of things. When I started this show 10.5 months ago, I think at first I struggled with a bit of envy at other people's success, and not so much, not because I wanted to be seen and have numbers. I mean, everybody wants to be successful to an extent, but I wanted to be successful in the mission of trying to help people grow, to learn, to awaken, and to spread love and kindness, and how to keep your positive energy up and your negative energy low. And in a lot of ways, I still feel like I've failed at that mission. I've got a great group of people here, and I'm sure a lot of YouTube people say their audience is great, but you guys have been incredibly kind and wonderful and loving, and I still feel like I need to, to take things up a notch. I've reached out to a lot of people to do interviews on the show, and I don't expect anyone to jump at it right away. You've got to put in the time and work, and obviously, if you're going to spend time doing an interview, you want to do it where you can reach a large audience, which I still just don't have. But in some sense, I wish they would just say that, like with Juan, as people said, he's not doing any new shows, which, maybe he wasn't at the time. In a way, I wish they just said, Jack, your show's just not big enough yet. And I get it. I really do get all of it. But there's still this tiny little part of me that feels like it still thinks about the past, where a lot of people do not like me. I have a hard, I'm a hard friend to make. A lot of people aren't keen to make friends with me. And it was that way when I was little, and I never understood why. I had these friends, and their parents seemed to never like me, and I was quiet, but I never knew what it was, really. I spent a long time trying to better who I am and just grow as a person and really learn from the stupid mistakes I've made. But I'm kind of at a point where I'm not so sure what to do next with the show. And I'll always I'm going to always keep going with it, just keep pushing and pushing, and learning little things along the way to try and make it better. Things have changed big time since I went to school for TV broadcasting and stuff. The technology changes fast. It's cool. There's great technology now. And in a way, all this stuff we're learning about how the future is going to change, I really like doing it in a way where we don't even have to focus on the political side of it. Because what is politics? I mean, politics really is just the swamp. And there's so many more aspects of it that it just doesn't matter. The camera keeps going light and dark, light and dark. I don't know if you guys are seeing that or if it's just on my screen. But if you guys have suggestions, I wish I knew what to do. Wish I could hire as a helper. Reach out to people and organize my files for me. I'm starting to run out of storage finally. I mean, I've tweaked everything to make room for storage, kept all the intros and Trump clips. I've got a hell of an archive, but I'm starting to run out of room finally. Anyway, I really do and always have very much appreciated what Juan does. Whether or not you always agree with him or he's right or you like who he is, just as a person who sits down for a little bit every day to teach us some things, in that sense, I think he's really good at it. And there's no way I could say I haven't learned anything from him, because I've learned a lot from him. And I've learned things from other people out there, but there's also a lot of fake stuff out there that people just get caught up in. It really does take away from our message, and it's meant to confuse you, to divide us. And I've tried really hard not to care too much about that little stuff lately. I'm confident where we're going as a country, as a world, very much like what Ricardo Bozzi was saying there. I do think we've got a lot of good days and a lot of growing to do ahead. But ultimately, how do I push a little harder, guys? I feel like I'm running on fumes most days anyway. How do I push a little harder to make this show better? Thanks to Lee and a lot of you guys and an angel in California, the equipment's getting better. But beyond that, I try and there's so many YouTube channels where they take like one of the videos I would show here, and the whole episode they do is about that one video, maybe 15 or 20 minutes. I don't know. I could do that. I just never really wanted to do that. But we really can. We really, really can leave the world better than we found it. We are doing that. We're going to do that. And it's not just Trump's job. It's not just the alliance's job or the military. It really does require every single one of us, at the very least, to change how we think about things, how we perceive things, to realize that we've been in an ocean of lies our entire lives, and to be willing to be open to the people trying to give us the truth, the reality of our situation. At the very least, it requires people to do that, and a lot of people are. I'm not saying people aren't doing that. And along that road, the changes will sort of come naturally as Trump does his job and changes our laws and regulations and sort of heals the country. We'll start falling into the changes ourselves and making things better. It's hard to think about how we ever got so deep into it, Looking back, I think we're always going to look back and say, how did we ever let the devil become that powerful? Just day after day, year after year of people turning the other cheek, taking the money, thinking about the smaller picture, thinking about themselves. all that has to change because we can't let it happen again. Our kids are already the first generation of people growing up in this weird time that we live in that I really couldn't imagine being a child during this time. It's always been confusing on that level, or knowing what to tell your children. I'll never forget the day my daughter asked me what 9/11 was. I'm going to tell her one answer and she's going to go to school and get told another story. And so she's got to toss around her mind, is dad crazy? Is everybody at school crazy? It's terrible that it's become that way. And it still is to some extent. Even as people watch what Trump's doing now, there's still some not willing to accept the other parts of it, or accept that it's real, or just accept that it's going to lead to all these other changes. Or maybe they're just not willing to admit when they're wrong, which is a very important part of life as well. I don't know what it is, guys. Maybe can I make myself more likable? Is that what needs done here? It doesn't matter to me if this channel, if the numbers go up ever or not, but as long as the message is out there, and it is, people are keeping it up. People like Nino have good numbers. They've got great numbers right now, growing numbers. But some of them I do also think are falling into some of the fear porn, or the other side of things, where people are trying to glorify pieces of things that aren't even real. And for what? For money. People don't even realize the importance of what's happening right now, to the fact that they're willing to topple it all down just to make a few bucks for themselves. That's the sad thing. Good news is, on my side of things, I can leave my videos up now. I'm pretty sure, between us, that the YouTube algorithms aren't doing anything but copyrights anymore. Could be wrong on that. It's a good thing, but I should probably knock on wood or something. I'm not really superstitious, to be honest with you. But I really do care about people. I'd like to see us live in a world where we can get rid of the war and the hurt and the pain and the suffering, and come together for numerous other better causes. And we will. I think we are. We're getting there. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, or in a week or a year. Maybe not even in our lifetime, to where it, and in our lifetimes, it'll never probably feel complete, just because we've lived through this piece of it. And so I think the rest of our lives will always be trying to add to it and make it better. And I think we're going to see some amazing shit. I think we're going to see some really good things come. A lot of good inventions and growing, and yeah. Spread that word, guys. You can do it. All right, so let's get into our next episode now. Here we go.
Looks like Hawaii. Looks beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Well, just over that mound over there is Lahaina, and so I'm just a little further west, and they've got some of the canoes training out here today, so it's kind of fun.
Wow.
Well, I was over on Kona when I did that show the other day, and the VOG is just, I couldn't see the cruise ships from where I hang out up on the side of the hill, and that was like the first time that it come in and out of vision. So it was like a sci-fi movie.
Wow. Yeah, we've had a lot of fun here.
Well, anyway, how are you doing, bro?
Very good. Very good. Lots of shows, trying to get this information out here. It's like drinking from a fire hose. That's what I say all the time. All the stuff that's coming out right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, as it's intended to be. I mean, think of, I've said it even to your audience a number of times. At some point, people will have to decide to stop complaining about the fact that things are going too fast. There was so much fussing about that it's not going fast enough and nothing's happening. And I said, well, when it does start happening, no complaining. So now it's happening. No complaining. Thank God it's happening.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm loving it. Because we were saying, right after the inauguration, that he needs to hit the ground and like hammer it, and he has been. It's been amazing.
Well, I don't know. Just think about this. Can you envision anything that was truly missed where they dropped the ball and didn't go fast enough so far? It's been 3 weeks. Where are you going to throw a stone at anything that's going on as though they've forgotten to do this fast enough or that fast enough? Even within the context of, say, the J6ers or Tina Peters, there's so much involved, and you're seeing that as these play out, that you can't really throw stones, even with the legal stuff that's being challenged here or there. Yeah, so we're moving very, very quickly. It's not like there's some, sticks in the mud that aren't moving fast enough, I guess is all I'd say. So.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to see it happening. I know they probably spent a lot of time gaming this and getting ready for this moment, and now they're just like really hammering it down. So
well, think of people saying that there's no plan, there's no plan, there's no plan. The plan centered around getting Trump back into power by whatever means afforded itself best. He's there now, and so the things that have happened over the last 3 weeks didn't happen without a plan, and much of it's been gamed out, not just for the weeks since the election or even the months coming into the election. Some of these things have been gamed out for years, even preceding Trump's first time in office, but that were not able to be executed because of the Russia stuff. All of the legal quagmire they tried to put him in. So all of that has been allowed to play out. Everybody's been able to show their hand. And now you have that kind of set aside. And it's open field. It's like you broke through all the tackles, and it's nothing but green in front of you, and you don't see another shirt coming at you from any angle. If you can outrun them, nobody can close on you. It's a goal.
I love those days.
Yeah. Well, it's fun to put it kind of visuals for people, but the reality is that's a pretty good example. These people are trying to take him down, and they just don't have the stamina. They don't have the right team anymore. Look at the attacks that have gone on, like they're going to go take down Trump now. on all these different things, and the people showing up and complaining, Waters, Schumer, name it, Pelosi. They're geriatric, and they've played all their cards. They didn't allow other people to come in effectively, and so they've got a very dated and worn bench, and they're just not in the same mental zone. And we're getting things knocked down very quickly. There's kind of word running around that they're going to lay off or fire 15,000 IRS employees this week. Some have said 9,000, 15,000.
Wow.
And that they're working the plans to take back into custody all of the guns, all of the ammunition that was put out to IRS employees. So they're going to be defanged. And then what are they looking at inside the IRS? All those employees, they had the building that was completely, nobody been in there since 2021 with sandbags, like for defensive purposes, all through the interior of the building. Reporters got to go in and see the innards of the IRS building. Nobody's been there since 2021. And then that same context, Trump comes in and he says that he is going to, anybody that's been working double billing for other employers while they were on the federal payroll, but they went home, they're going to be in trouble. They may lose pensions. They may, in fact, have to repay back salaries. Think of all the times that American citizens have been gone after, say, at the IRS. They made it in the context of the IRS employees, the guys going in at the IRS. The hunters become the hunted. And then there's pretty good information. I've got it from a couple of sources now that a couple key people at federal agencies are in the process of trying to bug out, leave the U.S. And, they think they're going to be safe somewhere in Europe or Africa. Give me a break. Like we don't have the ability to go find them wherever they're at. I think they have a rough hair day. No matter where they go, the behind the ice wall might not be far enough.
Yeah, they'll definitely be hunted down, I believe, and I've said that for a little while. I had Sean Taylor on my show yesterday, and we talked about, he's been on top of this for a long time.
Oh, let me tell you, Sean. Let me pause. Bear with me for 1 second, but Sean is one of these guys that when we're handing out hats and thank yous, he will be one of the heroes of this whole thing. He put everything on the line. He's been attacked viciously within his job performance, work, focus, but he's been very careful to stay between the lines within his authorities. And the stuff that he has been following and tracking down is just stunning, next to none. Fantastic on the information. So huge hat tip to Sean. And this is a team effort. We got people in all sorts of places doing phenomenal work. Even the work that you're doing, getting the word out, having a platform, so many people doing so much incredible stuff. But Sean, he didn't really, if you get right down to it, have the infrastructure that many others had. He had to do a lot of what he did with a very ragtag team, and then a lot of it just himself for hundreds and hundreds of hours behind the computer.
Yep.
So I have a lot of respect for guys that they go out and do the impossible, even if it's just by themselves, and they just don't stop. That's Sean, and we'll have a lot of accolades for him down the road.
That's awesome. Yeah, he definitely deserves it.
I just wanted to pause it.
Yeah, so we're that's great for saying. I appreciate that.
You were making a comment before I interrupt you. I apologize, Jaco.
Yeah, so I was just going to go into.
You're making a comment about Sean.
The last time that we talked, you talked about all of these new accommodations for people, maybe on some island somewhere. That's going to, lots of people are going to those accommodations. Now, that's one of the things, not that specifically, but there's one of the things that Sean and I talked about. And he said specifically that we really need to start to round these people up and hold them accountable before the next midterm election. What are your thoughts?
Oh, yes. Oh, they're not going to get anywhere close to the midterms and not be rounded up. This is going to be a tough year for bad guys. Think of how fast Trump has gone so far just to clear out the federal registries and things like that. Look at various laws. And by the way, let's think about this for a second. I got one thing. Okay. I got to give credit where credit is due. So one of the people that listens to your show sent a comment to me through channels, and I got the comment, and he says, "You know what Trump should do?" Well, I get this kind of a comment all day long. You should tell him do this, do that, do something. But I thought this one was so choice. You know how they put the pictures of the governor and the mayor and everybody on the wall and the president on the wall, and Trump's been doing all these swearing ins in front of Reagan's image there in the White House in the Oval Office. He's got Reagan, a huge picture there. He swears all these people in there. So, but this listener had this idea. He says, "You know what Trump should do? For his official picture in all the offices, all the federal agencies across the country, he should have as his picture the frowning mugshot." Can you imagine?
Oh my God!
With the grimace, mind your P's and Q's, stay within the law. No lawfare here, unlawfully. Oh, that's my perfect. Gosh! Can you imagine walking into every going to the IRS office? There's Trump's grimace. You're an employee every day. I'm watching you. Oh my gosh, that visual mentally, I just was like, yes, that's true. Trump should make that his official portrait. At least till the midterms. Then we can smile after we have all the victories in the midterms. He can put his smiling face in there. I think I should have Jen do an oil painting of Trump's mugshot, and that could be the official. She could be the artist that puts the official mugshot out there. But anyway, I mean, and even on the mugshot, I got to be honest with you, that doesn't just happen. I guarantee you, Trump had to sit in front of the mirror and practice that at least a few different times to get that down right, get just the scowl just right on his face, to make sure they're going to get a picture. They're going to get one that's going to be remembered forever. And they did. I mean, I'm telling you, he pulled it off. Oh, shit. They didn't have to ask him twice. Oh, that one wasn't good. Let's take another one. It was probably worse the second and fourth time. Oh, my gosh. I love it. But anyway, I think that if you think about a parting shot too, is all these federal employees having to leave, the last visual they have in their office building is they're walking out the door, Trump grimacing. And by the way, did you see what's happening to property around Washington D.C.?
Oh yeah, they're bailing.
They're bailing. I mean, the listings for houses for sale. And then the problem for them all is, with so many being listed all at the same time, the prices, I mean, it's a buyer's market if you want to go buy there. I mean, I don't know if it makes sense, but it's a buyer's market for sure. And I had friends that were moving to D.C. because one of them got appointed to a federal position. So they were kind of hand-wringing, gosh, I mean, it's so hard to rent. It's so expensive. And I said, what are you talking about? Crazy? And this was back in November. They had already been promised a position. And I said, yeah, but when you get ready to move there, don't even buy anything till like March. Just stay at a hotel until March or so. And that's when prices are really going to start to get pretty good. And so,
I agree.
my chicken here just showed up. I gave him a grape earlier. Now he's not going to go away forever.
He's your buddy.
But anyway, yeah, he is. He was on my lap a minute ago, and I was like, no, I don't need
Wow.
rice. One grape, man. They can be bad. It's like a Democrat chicken. Okay, it just took one grape. Anyway, gosh, I'm hard on those word, I guess. But the house prices plummeting because so many houses on the market, and then the ones that aren't plummeting, the people are like, well, maybe it'll get better, or Trump's people will show up. Now Trump's moving agencies all over the country, and he's going to continue to do so. So how are they going to get this solved in any convenient short period of time? It's not going to happen. So it's going to be a buyer's market for quite a long time, and then those people aren't going to get the big bucks they were looking for. So even whatever they get, they better take to it while they can, because I think those prices are going to continue down. I had a long talk with somebody out of Chicago earlier today, and it's the same thing there. And of course, that was heavily favored within the Democrat ranks with Obama there and all that. And I think those places are absolutely going to get hit the hardest and see prices drop radically. And so I said, I'd hold tight buying your farmland that they want to buy. Give this a chance to wash out. I think you see some of these prices in these heavily favored liberal areas come down quite a bit. And then the banks issues, we haven't even gotten to the bank issues. Think about this. And this is what I was trying to, people were asking me, and what do I think? And I've talked about this for quite a while with what's going to happen within the money supply and things like that within prices. And, you should have silver and gold and all this other stuff. Okay, let's just we're all adults here. So let's have an adult conversation for a minute or two. In my lifetime, I've seen 4 big property recessions, and they were really real estate driven in the banking system for various reasons, where you had peak to trough on high value properties that went down literally 30 and 40% in the hardest hit properties, and 20 is a bare minimum, almost uniquely all through the country. So right now you have, like in a region, you might have a big employer, aerospace company or computer company or something like that, and they lay off, maybe they have a 50,000 workforce and they lay off 10 or 15,000 employees. Huge impact in the region. McDonald's doesn't sell as much. The people that go out and do concrete work and build houses and roads, they all get hit. They're all downhill. With what Trump's doing with gleaning out all of the, really parasites, the excessive federal positions and contractors and the money flow and USAID. As he does that, it's like drilling holes in the foundation of this federalist camp. All the people and contractors that benefited from just the money flowing crazily, that really was bleeding America out. And so like a tourniquet, he's cut off the flow completely. And when you apply a tourniquet, you might let a little bit of blood flow. You don't want to kill the limb necessarily, but you have to get something under control because you're bleeding out. It's not that the leg is bad, but you've got an injury in there that has to be brought under control. You want to keep the limb alive, but you want to choke off the area where there's some horrible damage. And while you're trying to get to it, you got to, save the whole body by having a tourniquet to limit that blood flow. That's really what's happening. They've cut off the blood flow to a lot of these liberal operations, these veiled operations that are bleeding out the body politic. Enough go in various ways to keep everything alive while they sort through what's legitimate and what is, false, illegitimate, crazy. And so it might be that we see 15,000 IRS workers going away this week. Shoot, you got 250,000. He said he wanted to reduce stuff by half. In that particular agency's case, we're going to shut them down. Now, there'll be plenty, as the country resets and gets business going again, you're still going to need bookkeepers. You're still going to need people that understand sound finance and bookkeeping and like that. Those people will be fine. And the ones that get on the right side of history will be fine. But the ones that were just they're part of an agency that's lawless and unlawful in the way that it works through, that's just going to get shut off. And so some of those people will be able to get jobs over helping doing the tariff stuff and other things. Other ones that were a little happy to be going after other Americans, there won't be a place for them. We won't have need of their services. So it's going to be fun to watch as this plays out. And but plenty of other agencies where there's paring back. Do we need 4 light bulb changers, or do we need one guy with the ladder? The other 3 holding the guy up and then turning in a circle underneath him to turn the light bulb into place. Literally, these silly things within the federal operations are going to get pared back to something more appropriate. So if you're in an agency who does really legitimate, valid, important work, maybe you lose 10 or 15 or 20% of your workforce. If you're in an agency that is just enforcing rules about rules to keep the cash flow going. I remember one of the big cities where Starbucks is at, they decided that the Starbucks brewing system, where they have the, heat the water up and then run it through the coffee grounds to make coffee, that's a boiler. And so some people got to the politicians in that city and said, hey, this is a boiler and they're dangerous. They can blow up. That's why we have boiler inspections and the Boilermakers Union to, help monitor these and make sure that they meet code and everything else. So they were going to institute this, several $1,000 license. And then you had to have your boilers at the coffee shops all around this city inspected. It was going to be a demonstration project in this one city. And then they were going to, spread it out to cities all across the country. So they're going to prove how important this was. It was a cash cow for cities. And they were going to generate hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of new revenue by inspecting all the boilers at all the little coffee stands in their jurisdiction, and be a training model for other jurisdictions to do the same. Okay, let me ask you a question. In the entire time since Starbucks became a thing and all the other coffee places became a thing, how many times have you heard of a water boiling system at the coffee shop blowing up and hurting anybody, let alone killing them?
Never.
Okay. So what was going on here? It was purely just a way to get some cash and add, create a whole new division and money flow and everything else. It couldn't be sillier than that. As outrageous as that example is, we have lots of agencies involved in similar stuff. I could get into it with like the mining and like that, but where we have quite a bit going on in the mining sector. There's a lot of similar kinds of laws that, they argue in front of somebody that doesn't know. Oh, yeah, that's right. We really got to do that. You get in front of somebody that actually knows what's going on, and some of these rules are like, seriously? As dumb as having inspectors for coffee pots. It's a make work thing. And that's what the Trump team is eliminating and boiling away is that. And he said, all the way back to the first campaign, he wanted to cut the federal workforce by half. I think he's going to accomplish it. And the Doge stuff. Here's one thing too. Oh my! There's my chicken. He's still here. I wish I had more grapes for him. Already ate them all. Sorry, bro. on the Doge thing. Okay, so a lot of your listeners have heard that Doge is illegal and it's unconstitutional, and having a department for excellence and getting it under control. It's not legal. We're going to win in court. Trump's going to get his head handed to him on a plate. It's not going to stand. Okay. Who put that whole thing together? It wasn't Trump. It was Obama.
It's Obama. Yeah.
All of his team put that whole thing together. All Trump did was rename it. But the actual orders that allow for it to exist, all the stuff that's going on there. And if somewhere in there a judge decides that the way that the Doge system was created and implemented is illegal and has to stop, you know what else you have to get rid of that's under the same type of executive order? Department of Energy.
Oh, nice.
You have to get rid of the CIA. You have to get rid of the FBI.
Oh,
you
my
have to
God.
get rid of IRS. All of them. So let them go to court and argue that and win. Ooh! Gosh, that's so horrible. Elon is out. Doge is out. Yeah, and we also wiped it. It's like having a chess game and somebody comes in and just wipes off all the pieces on the board. You're not playing fair. Well, it's the rules. You said it doesn't, you can't play it. Oh my
that
gosh.
would be fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no plan. There's no plan, by the way. There's no plan.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
So the banks. So we have, of course, one of the worst banks is J.P. Morgan Chase. Jamie Dimon, who I think probably they're going to be leading him out in handcuffs. What do you think is going to happen with these banks? You kind of mentioned that.
Well, here's the deal. We're looking, as soon as you get to the IRS, think of all the reporting stuff. Now, I've got some folks that I actually threw some money at their project some time back, and they're getting ready to file something on, I don't want to say exactly, because I don't want to give it away too much, but a certain reporting thing that is really unconstitutional, without basis, blah, blah, blah. So they're getting ready to go after that. And I actually think that the banks are going to not do the suit. It's been for the benefit of IRS and federal reporting agencies and anti-terrorism, all sorts of things. But at the end of the day, the ones that will benefit the most would be the banks to not do it. Before they would maybe enforce this particular rule, based on the fact of intimidation, they're going along with federal agencies. At this point, without any support there, and they have a huge expense, I think the banks become the best buddy in making it so this particular reporting feature goes away. And with it, one other thing that would happen is the games being played with the debanking stuff. When I was with Nigel Farage last summer, one of the things that he wanted to talk about was the whole debanking thing. We were talking about other stuff, but he raised it and talked about it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Debanking of conservative players going on throughout the Commonwealth and other countries besides what's going on here in the U.S. And I think with this particular lawsuit that we would eliminate the games being played there. So, and for the banks, think of it this way. The big play within the banking community has been the ever increasing, because of inflation, which is engineered by creating money, creating debt, and constantly having to increase the amount of money present to service the debt. Most of that is tied to real estate. And so you have to have continuously increasing values in real estate. The reality is real estate is like gold or silver. It's a tangible. What's really changing in value? The money you're buying it with. There may be some increase because of location and infrastructure and pressure and all that. But if you weren't adding that in specifically, it's a pretty value. It's the dollars you buy it with that have been changing. And an easy comparison that's been out there for a long time people use is that With a $20 gold piece in the 1800s, late 1800s, you go into San Francisco and buy the finest suit in San Francisco with a 20-ounce gold piece, or $20 gold piece, which is 1 ounce at that time in the 1800s. As gold prices have changed and gone up, imagine today a gold coin, it goes for around $3,500. Even though gold spot price is down there at 29 something right now, the gold coin's up there about 3,500 for American Eagle. You could go into San Francisco again today and buy the finest suit and all these stuff to go with it, and it'd be about that much. You know, you got people who go out and spend 25 grand or something, but that's not what I'm talking about. You know, just a fantastic tailored, excellent suit. Yeah, it's about $3,500 with shoes and any other gear that goes with it. And so what changed in value? Was it the gold that changed in value? Was it even the labor? No, the dollars went down in value. It takes more of them to buy the same thing. And it's the same with property for the most part. Even with newer technology and stuff like that, you could use the same comparison with cars, Cadillac from the 50s versus now, cost in gold, etc. And it'll stay relatively consistent. Then you look at, if you're a person that's in the game, you've got a leveraged piece of property. So most people, they're somewhere around 20% down on the properties, and they're taking money from a prior transaction and paying it into the current transaction. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, to get a government grant, whatever. First time buyer, help from the government. But the problem is when you come in and buy that property, if the property's going up in value and the banks anticipate that the trend is going to continue higher, they're pretty loose in making those loans because they can go to the Federal Reserve, bundle a whole package together and get a bunch of money at cheaper rates. When the property is going down in value or it's very stable, it's not really going up much, the banks watch their P's and Q's a lot closer. And they do this through the appraisers. They'll have private advisory letters, notes to appraisers, and I'll tell them that they want them to cool it on these wildly high appraisals. And so there'll be bank appraisers. There may be other people out there trying to appraise stuff for insurance, other stuff. The bank appraisers, they're the ones that really control the game, and they'll tell them to, you know, ease up, slow down, check the list a little more thoroughly, look at the roof. If it's got one shingle out of place, you need a whole new roof, you know, stuff like that, because they know they could get stuck with the property. So, and then property prices go down because the banks are tightening up. They're requiring higher down payments, better details on their job history and their current employer. And they'll look at the employer. Hey, you know, something's happening in federal jobs. You work at a federal job. We're not sure we want to loan anything to you in your house because we think there's a fair likelihood that your job might disappear. So they're not making loans to those guys easily. The money's not flowing. When the banks slow down on making the loans, then I'm kind of having fun watching the folks learning how to canoe here. Anyway, as the banks tighten up, the property prices cool down. And then if you actually have a dirge of buyers, like what's happening in Washington, D.C. right now, well, they won't make loans unless you got 40% down. And the people that are trying to sell, they're not getting equity out of their loans. They might just be breaking even to get out of the house. They might even have to pay to get out of the house because nobody's buying their houses and they can't afford to make the mortgage payment because they don't have a job anymore because Trump's got them laid off or fired and nobody's hiring other positions in the federal market for what they got to offer or other employers. They might even not have their retirement because they got caught double dipping, working other jobs while they were at home, supposedly working for their federal employer, and they weren't actually working. They were sandbagging. So with that in mind, as the banks tighten up, the values of the houses go down. Building new houses when you have an oversupply of houses on the market. Who's building new houses when there's cheaper houses on the market than you can even build for? That slows down the velocity of money radically. And I'm just telling you, I believe that's what is about to happen again for the fifth time in my lifetime that I could understand, observe, and watch. And so it's going to be very tough. And then in that environment, dollars become more dear. But even more so, what the Biden team did was they printed dollars into this situation heavily. And a lot of those dollars are out there still roosting around various places. They're going to get spent. And you'll see a surge of dollars for a bit of time. And then it's going to just suddenly appear to dry up a lot. So dollars will be tight. Anything, gold and silver will actually be tight for various reasons and see the price go up. People are going to need that money for loans to bridge through, and they're going to be dangerous loans, by the way. Think twice, think 10 times. Think like a pawn shop. They won't loan you, but 60% of value or something if it's really something good. Okay, even if it's like gold or silver, they don't give you the whole Marianne. So you have to be on your game about what's coming up. There's going to be a window here where people holding tangibles are going to be fine. If you have property and it's fully paid for or nearly paid for, probably not the time to sell. You just ride it through and let things stabilize and come out the other side as long as it's, paying its own way and you're not upside down or something. How long is it going to take for this to get flushed into the system? Well, what Trump's doing is accelerating this. Instead of slowly bleeding this out over the next couple of years, the triage here is to cut the flow off completely and throttle it enough to keep these various limbs alive, to keep federal government, functional, alive, but not necessarily running sprints, okay, while we close off these gaping holes where we're bleeding out. And I think that's, so where are the banks? The banks are probably going to tighten up radically. And it'll be not even because they want to. They're going to have extra scrutiny going on inside the banks. Their accountants are going to be explaining themselves a lot more within the banks. Who was getting the loans? What were the criteria for some of these loans? Were others not getting loans because of some kind of redlining within the conservative versus diversity community? There's going to be a lot of explaining to do, and that's going to take probably in the very shortest window, a year to a year and a half to get sorted through and begin to restabilize. I don't expect things to actually start heading towards some new level of parity until sometime mid 2026 to fall of 2026.
Okay, so one thing I caught in that first interview he did is they said he was releasing the Kennedy files and Martin Luther King, and he said John F. Kennedy Jr. too. He did not announce that he's going to release the John F. Kennedy Jr. files because there are no John F. Kennedy Jr. files. Because there was no John F. Kennedy Jr. death. But anyway, it was great interviews. I really have enjoyed the stuff he's been talking about lately. I think he's opened up a little bit because things are changing. The censorship has changed. It's time to change the conversation in general, and I think it's starting to happen naturally, actually quicker than I thought, really. But that's a good thing. As the conversation changes more and more, society will change more and more around us, and things will begin to go back to, well, I don't know if I'd say it'll go back to what we would call normal. I think it'll be better than we ever imagined, really. A kind of normal we've probably never even known a tiny bit of in our lifetimes. It's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you guys all are too, because it's awesome. Awesome things ahead. I'd like to see what happens with Fort Knox. I think we're going to find out soon. Everything's happening. Who was it that said, was it -48 that said it's going to all start happening so fast, you say it's happening too fast. We're getting there. We're getting there fast. I have a lot of his stuff from recently that I'd like to go back and listen to one night. Some pretty long episodes and stuff. He's got some like 2-hour, 3-hour episodes. But would like to do that one night and all that good stuff. Take a good look at all the stuff behind me. You won't have to look at it much longer. My green screen should be here soon. I don't know. In some ways I just kind of like my bookshelf. But yeah. Yeah, that's all I got for you guys. It definitely feels like a Monday today. And I, as usual, did not get any sleep. Yeah, I think we'll have another full news day tomorrow, so we will see what's happening. I'll take one more look here at my files. Make sure I didn't miss anything. This would be a good picture to show. The 4 agreements. I don't remember where I found this. Be impeccable with your word. Speak with integrity. Don't take anything personally. Nothing that others do is because of you. Don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. And always do your best. I like that. I don't remember where I found that this morning, but I thought that was cool. I don't know. A good 4 things that all of us should remember, really. I like finding cool things like that. Other than that, the stuff with the gold is interesting. Trump's post was pretty interesting too the other day. He who saves his country does not violate any law. It's interesting. That's a quote from Napoleon, if I remember right. Yeah, I guess so. He's wearing the Napoleon outfit too. What do you guys think of that? He who saves his country does not violate any law. That's a tough one, but I'm more wondering why he posted it. What's the message he's trying to get at? Oh gosh, I look terrible today. My eyes are all poofy. I need to sleep. Yeah. So some cool posts there. Take one more look. And then you can all go away. No. I'm kidding. I still don't get this Social Security thing. These are the weirdest numbers I've ever seen in my life. 695 people from 180 to 189. 448. One, either it's real and we really have people living this age, call me crazy, or there's one hell of a scam going on here, but I still don't get it. You know, I'm not claiming to be the smartest person by any means, but if you were going to run a social security scam and send money to people that don't exist, why would you not just make them in the normal human age range? What do you guys think is going on with that? Please, somebody in the chat, tell me your opinion, because it's the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. I don't get it. You know, they're not that dumb. I mean, so what's the story? There's a story there. I think I might have to dig into this one tonight. According to the Social Security database, these are the numbers of people in each age bucket with the death field set to false. We have one person between the age of 360 and 369. I mean, seriously? Seriously? I sure as hell didn't know we had almost 4 million people over the age of 130. Interesting stuff, guys. The Patriot world is a weird world, but you gotta love the Patriot community, that's for sure. And that's what we are here. You know, some of those shows out there, they're really fancy, but they just have no substance behind them. If I become one of those shows, put me out of my misery. All right, guys. We'll see how that green screen looks when I get it. You guys can vote on what image we should put behind me. You know, gotta have something. We could put a moving image, you know, like this. Whoa. Or a news background. Breaking news. In breaking news, Elvis is still alive, and I wasn't trying to rip on anyone else's shows. There's a lot of great interviews out there, and it's interesting to see the interviews, even if you don't agree with the narrative they're taking you down. In some ways, it's contradictory to our purpose, our progress, and our movement, but then again, who's anybody to say what's what right now? I couldn't even begin to guess on some of these things, and I think I've just stopped trying because it just really doesn't matter, guys. Some of it doesn't matter, so don't find yourself being pulled into those shows just because they sensationalize these weird stories. They've got that creepypasta stuff for that. All right, guys. I am out of here. I do hope you have a lovely night. It's Monday. Probably best to just go to sleep already and hope that Tuesday gets here a little faster. But anyway, love you guys. I love you very much. And you can always email me at collisiontv17@gmail.com. I need to get a new email for the new Patriot News Broadcasting channel, don't I? So many things to do. Probably help if I checked my email. I checked it a few days ago. All right. So I need to get my screen fixed up again too. The stuff I put up on the screen, I realize, takes up power too. I don't know. It's confusing how all that works. But anyway, much love and God bless all of you. I will see you tomorrow.
Who are the 17%? Who are they? Who the hell are the 17%? Anybody in here from the 17%? Don't raise your hand. That may be dangerous. 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17. So I think I might have been in Washington 17 times in my life. 17, 17, and 17, 17, 17, 17. 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, I'm 17, 17, 17, 17, 17. I spoke to him 17 minutes ago. I hung up the phone as you're coming in. 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17. So you had 17 Republicans plus me. 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, planning it for 17 years.
Activation word, Ronald McDonald.
Put on notice, if you fuck around with us, if you do something bad to us, we are going to do
All Patriots go.
things to you that have never been done before.
Go get those lights on! The calm before the storm. Where we go one, we go all. Go! Yeah! All numbers are the same. I'm coming to kill you!
Slums of Rio, the homeless and hungry know the truth. Donald Trump, please save me.
They have been forgotten. They have nothing!
Are you enjoying the show? Refill your popcorn. You'll love this next part.
They'll make America great again! Go!
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this.
I think it's kind of ironic when you think about the fact that Jesus never said, "Come to me, all who are crushing it and living their best life." No. He said, "Come to me, all who are weary, and I will give you rest." My God will meet you at your darkest. My God will meet you at your lowest. And he designed it that way on purpose. So that way we realize that we need to lean on him to fight the battles we cannot. So if you're discouraged, if you're tired or weary, do not worry. That's exactly how Jesus expected you to come to him. I'll tell you what, my God is undefeated at every battle he's ever fought. So I will place my trust and my faith in him that he will see me through.
Follow the Moskwa down to Gonky Park, listening to the wind of change. An August summer night, soldiers passing by, listening to the wind of change. The world is closing in. Did you ever think that we could be so close, like brothers? The future's in the air, can feel it everywhere. I'm blowing with the wind of change. Take me to the magic of the moment on a glory night, where the children of tomorrow dream away in the wind of change. Walking down the street, distant memories are buried in the past forever. I follow the Moskwa down to Gorky Park, listening to the wind of change. Take me to the magic of the moment on a glory night, where the children of tomorrow dream away in the wind of change. The wind of change blows straight into the face of time, like a storm wind that will ring the freedom bell for peace of mind. Play your ballad like I sing what my guitar wants to sing.
when you look at it from up here. You get an appreciation of our world is a beautiful place and we do need to take care of it.